Senator Bernie Sanders is finally on the attack against Joe Biden. During an interview on CNN, this is what Bernie said. Watch.
Joe Biden voted and helped lead the effort for the war in Iraq, the most dangerous foreign policy blunder in the modern history of this country. Joe Biden voted for the disastrous trade agreements like NAFTA and permanent normal trade relations with China, which cost us millions of jobs. Do you think that's going to play well in Michigan or Wisconsin or Pennsylvania? You know, Joe Biden has been on the floor of the Senate talking about the need to cut Social Security or Medicare or Medicaid. Joe Biden pushed a bankruptcy bill, which has caused enormous financial problems for working families.
All right, so it cut off there, but basically, yes, the bankruptcy bill. By the way, that's why so many students that are underwater with student loans are now able to get out of those student loans when it comes to bankruptcy. That's old Joe Biden. So all of that is 100% true. Those are absolutely correct. So now the big one is, of course, and the one that's really, really relevant, and they all really are, but especially today, is the vote on the Iraq war. So now this statement actually comes, and I know there's the attacks on Bernie. It's like, the way you're attacking fellow Democrats. Well, that's because Joe Biden was literally caught lying to his voters or potential voters. There was a video that happened on last Friday in Iowa. And now this is a situation where a voter had basically challenged him on the Iraq war. He said, look, Joe, I agree with like 90%, but when it comes to your vote on the Iraq war, like I cannot see myself supporting that. And so, look, that's a principled voter right there. Now, in response, Biden basically lied and said, I was against the war the very moment it started. Well, now that is just not true. That is alternative facts. And this comes from, by the way, CNN. Actually doing a fact check on Joe Biden. It's amazing. They said that Biden did not oppose the war from the beginning and actually had repeatedly expressed support for the war while he was a senator in Delaware. Though he did, as the campaign said, criticize Bush for how he handled that war, how he handled diplomacy, the conduct, and the pre-war intelligence, because we found out, of course, later on that the intelligence was essentially manufactured. Now, Biden also later on called his 2002 vote a mistake, but beginning in 2005, he had called it a mistake, but had endorsed the invasion right before and right after it occurred, did so again in public remarks later on in 2003, and continued to argue into 2004 that the U.S. should keep up the fight in Iraq. So Biden has been consistently wrong on the Iraq war. So that is far from being against it from the beginning. And now, of course, he's literally trying to change history. Okay. Oh, no, I was against it. No, Joe, you were in favor of it. You were literally in favor of it. Now, the best thing that we can say about Joe Biden on this is that he was dumb enough to take Republicans at their word, to take George W. Bush at his word. And look, one of his statements, by the way, is that he said, well, I only voted to authorize military force for George W. Bush because I thought that would get inspectors into the country. Hey, shocker, Joe, Republicans lied because they lie about everything. And see, but here's the problem. That it says a lot about Joe Biden's worldview. Again, his pitch, and I've criticized this before. He says, okay, well, after I beat Trump, things will go back to normal and Republicans will be reasonable. I can work with Republicans. I might even appoint a Republican vice president. That is the same nonsense that Obama has said for years. Oh, don't worry, the fever will break. Republicans will vote for things that are good for America because I believe they actually care about America. This is old, outdated 1990s, 1980s, Tip O'Neill working with, Newt Gingrich, whatever kind of bull crap that doesn't exist today because we are very, very polarized. What's going on here with the right wing is, look, the Republican Party is deeply first empowered, massively right wing, and not at all interested in what's best for the country. They're only interested in what's best for their donors and to keep their own political careers by pandering, of course, to some of the worst voters on their side. And that's the problem. See, I don't want to work with the insane Republican Party as it is. No, I want to defeat them. I want to beat them so badly that they will have no choice but to return to the actual middle and drag the Overton window back with them, as they have dragged it so far to the right. And the Democrats, of course, have done a terrible job by literally chasing after them. And that's the situation we find ourselves in. We are massively a right-wing government. In reality, when it comes to the rest of the world, progressives are actually more centrist, more moderate, because we actually represent some policies that are incredibly popular with the majority of the American people. And one of those policies, by the way, is being against starting ridiculous wars in the Middle East. We are tired of war. We are sick of the war. Bernie Sanders, he gets it. He was against the war from the beginning. And he's one of the only ones that gets almost all of these issues right and has been consistently right for far longer than anyone else. He was against the Iraq War in the beginning when it counted the most, voted against it. He was against privatizing Social Security or doing chain CPI when Obama had put it on the table during budget negotiations. He was in favor of single-payer health care when Obama was stripping it out of stripping the public option out of Obamacare. And finally, Bernie Sanders, thankfully, he is getting more aggressive in pointing out that he has actually been on the right sides of those issues. So thank goodness, Bernie, keep hitting him harder. Keep pointing out how you were right. Hey guys, hopefully you enjoyed that free video. Now I'm going to have to ask you a favor. Between the demonetization and the YouTube algorithm messing around with view counts, etc., we're having a hard time adjusting to the new YouTube reality, which is where you guys come in. See, we have a Patreon, patreon.com/TYTNation, set up to help us rely on you guys, the viewers, instead of big corporate ads. Look, you know the show. You know how I'm not in favor of big corporations anyway. So help us transition away from relying on the ad model to pay the bills and sign up to be a patron, patreon.com/TYTNation. That goes a long way to help us keep the lights on. And you guys will know that you're supporting independent progressive media.